This is Appointment and Equity Committee, Tuesday, June 28, 10 o'clock. Clerk, please take the roll.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney is absent at the moment. Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any public comments?
No, Madam Chair, no one signed in for public comment.
All right, if you can please review the minutes from June 14th. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. After reviewing the minutes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays, the minutes are approved. Please read the matters referred to committee.
Resolution 2022-0130, confirming the county executive's appointment of Dornat Drummond to serve on the Cuyahoga County Diversion Board for the term March 1st, 2022 to February 28th, 2025.
Thank you. I believe we have Chief Drummond on Zoom, and would you please, Laura Roach,
Yes.
give us some background?
Madam Chair, Laura Roach, on behalf of County Executive and pursuant to Section 208.04 of the Cuyahoga County Code, I am here to recommend and appoint Chief Drummond to the Diversion Board. Chief Drummond will serve a 3-year term, March 1st, 2022 through February 28th, 2025, replacing Chief Calvin Williams. We are requesting a second reading suspension. Brandy Carney is here to speak on behalf of the Diversion Board if necessary.
Thank you. And do we have Chief Drummond?
Yes.
There you are. Thank you.
Thanks.
I
Good
know
morning.
Good morning. We've been going back and forth trying to make sure we connect with you. It's an important position, and thank you for making the time to be with us.
Sure, appreciate it.
All right, Chief, if you can just perhaps give us a little background on yourself and why it is you'd like to be appointed to the Diversion Board.
Thank you, appreciate it. I've been a police officer here in the city of Cleveland. Can you guys hear me okay? I want to make sure I'm coming across okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I've been a police officer in the city of Cleveland my entire career, which is spanning 33 years. Started in 1989 here in the Cleveland Division of Police, assigned to the 1st District, which was the far west side. Spent several years there and was assigned to the patrol section, obviously patrolling our neighborhoods out there in the 1st District. Then I was assigned to the detective unit, which was a strike force was called. So we handled all sorts of different crimes and drug activity and so forth. So I have a kind of unique perspective and through my 33 years on the job. I was promoted to sergeant and then assigned to the chief's office. And again, gives me a different perspective on the job. I was what was called the case preparation officer. That involved a lot of union issues. I also was the division's equal employment officer. So again, gave me a different perspective, a need for having different ways and different lenses of looking at things, not only in a law enforcement perspective, but other lenses as well. Then I was after a couple of years, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, assigned back to the 1st District on night shift. And I can tell you unequivocally that probably one of the best things that happened to me in my career was being assigned to the patrol section on night shift, which, by the way, I couldn't stand night shift, couldn't stand it. I don't know how folks can work it, but anyway, that's a different story. I worked night shift out there, running a platoon and running a district of patrol officers and scheduling and so forth. Again, gave me a different perspective. And then I was assigned as a public information officer. Did that for a little bit and then assigned as commander of District 6, which then became District 5. I was out there for several years and then became Deputy Chief of Field Operations, which included all 5 neighborhood districts, the Bureau of Traffic and Community Relations unit. So I had about 2/3 of the division under my command. And then ultimately, recently, as everyone's aware, I was appointed interim police chief after Calvin Williams retired. So again, gives me a different perspective. And I think that that's kind of the experience that I have that I think is makes me uniquely qualified for the diversion board. And I think also what's important for me anyway, as a police officer and the chief, is that I truly believe that incarceration in jail shouldn't be the first option for people. I really don't. And the reason why I say that is because after 33 years on the job, I tell people this, and I mean this sincerely. If individuals believe that arresting people and putting them in jail all the time is going to be a way to get out the mess that we're in, and then I think they're sadly mistaken. Because again, we arrest, especially here in the United States of America, we arrest more people than anywhere else in the world. So that's not the answer. So the diversion center, the diversion board, I think is really important, especially the center. The diversion center is so critically important. That we get people that need help, whether it's drug and alcohol or mental illness and so forth. We divert them away from jail as much as possible. Obviously, if someone's committing crimes and so forth, we have to deal with that. But I also think equally important is that we get people the help that they need. And I believe that this diversion board is critical in that endeavor to help people. So that's one of the reasons why I want to be on there. And also I have to stress that Mayor Bibb and also Safety Director Howard, we talk about this and so forth, and how important it is that the Division of Police has a seat on the board because it affects so many residents in the city of Cleveland. I just kind of as many folks in the city of Cleveland, so it's important that we have a voice on the board. So that's the reason why I'm hoping that you guys will approve it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you.
Well, thank you, Chief, and very impressive background. Good to have you here this morning, and I'll open it up for questions. We have questions for
Madam
Chief
Chair.
Drummond. Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Miller.
Thank you very much. And to Chief Drummond, I would just like to say thank you for stepping up to serve in this very important role. And you certainly have exemplified the process of starting from the bottom and working your way all the way up through the ranks to the top position. And I particularly support your point of view on incarceration. We have among the highest incarceration rates in the world in the United States, and it's not making us any safer. And I think it's very important to find alternatives wherever possible in whatever ways that we can, because not very many people come out of jail as better people than they went in, despite our best efforts at rehabilitation. And so I do agree that we have to use all the tools at our disposal and try to move toward a more enlightened policy that makes far less use of incarceration than what we're currently doing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thanks, sir.
Councilwoman Yvonne.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chief Drummond. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I agree that the city of Cleveland, being one of the largest cities in this county, having a voice on this board. I was a proponent for this diversion center. It's needed. It's just one of the tools in our toolbox that we get to use to actually help individuals get back on track, so to speak, with the issues. Your background is exemplary, and your commitment to the city is as well. And I don't have a question for you. I think you laid out pretty much your background. Welcome aboard if you get confirmed on Tuesday, and I would just like to have my name added to this legislation. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Councilwoman.
Chief Drummond, if I may just ask just a couple questions, just to get to know perhaps your thoughts on the diversion center itself. What steps do you think we can take to increase the usage of the diversion center? Right now, I believe, is it underutilized at this point? Where are we in the population?
I believe it's underutilized, just from the numbers that I see, and that's something that I stress to my command staff each opportunity I get, either verbally when we have our command staff meetings. As a matter of fact, we have a command staff meeting this Thursday with all 17 members of our command staff. And again, one of the things I stress is the importance of utilizing that. Going back to the idea that incarceration is not always the answer. It's giving people the opportunities to give them help and so forth. And I think that's part of our duties in law enforcement. It's not just to arrest people, to just try to give them help. So what can we do to increase it, at least from my end, is again, to continue to stress to our supervisors, our officers, that there are other ways to deal with and help people versus incarceration. Again, there are people who need to be incarcerated. But again, I think the vast majority, or a good percentage, need help as well in that process. So for us, we have to make that part of our DNA, part of our culture. And it starts from the top. It starts with me, conveying that to my officers, and continue to push it down to the supervisors, and then hopefully it will resonate with our officers.
So you feel it's at the beginning, it's perhaps an education of your officers that are making the decision at the time of whether or not that person should go to the diversion center or whether they should be incarcerated. It's at that point you would like to see steps taken to improve that process?
Absolutely, and that's where it starts, absolutely. With me,
starts.
you know how I feel, that's important to me. Again, to get it down to the 1,300, 1,400 members that we have right now is vital in our patrol section, because they're making that decision. You're absolutely right. They're making that decision at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
When I'm in bed sleeping, they're making that decision. So they have to have the education, which I think is key in that they have the ability and the authority based on our policies and being support that to make that decision to take those particular individuals to diversion center and utilize that more often than they're doing right now.
And tell me if I'm correct, Chief. It is not mandatory. Say a police officer would like to see this person taken to the diversion center. They can refuse, or if they do go to the diversion center, they don't have to stay. How do you manage that piece of it?
You're absolutely right. And again, we just go with our policies and so forth. We can't force anyone to go to a diversion center. We make that offer to them. And if necessary, obviously we'll take them to jail. We don't like to. What I like my officers to do, if they feel that this person, that jail is not a low level offense, jail is not the place for the particular person, the person refuses to go to diversion center, I would hope that there are other options that our officers will take versus taking that person to jail. And that's what I hope to convey to the officers, and we continue to convey that to them now. But you're right, they don't have to go. It's not mandatory or anything like that. So we do have some other options that's available to our officers versus taking those folks down to jail. We can make what is called name suspect. It could be an assault name suspect or something like that, where we take the information to the prosecutor a little bit later, and then we can take hopefully that person somewhere else where they can get help somewhere else versus the diversion center.
Okay, thank you. I was curious as to how we manage that. Lastly, I wanted to ask, the outcomes of what we attempt to achieve, of course, is to get people back and be productive citizens. How do we sustain that when they leave? Is there any follow-up with those that went through the diversion center? Are they referred to other places for help? How is it that we make sure that who we are helping doesn't end at the time that they leave the diversion center?
Again, good question. Not a question that I can answer. Once we take them to the diversion center, there's no tracking on our part. So I guess that Councilwoman would be a question that needs to be answered from the diversion center. Because I know from touring the diversion center that they have processes in place to help people go to different counseling and whatever their needs may be. So I know that they have, I believe, a pretty robust system in place to help people and kind of follow them through. And again, I don't want to speak for them. They're quite capable of speaking for themselves and probably much more eloquent and more informed than I can.
Okay, well, thank you for that, and I will follow up. Councilwoman, do you have a question?
Yes, through the chair to Chief Drummond, do you feel we should have a diversion center for youth as well, from your opinion?
Absolutely. There's no question about it, especially here in the city of Cleveland, where we have kids that get themselves into trouble. And sometimes, as you know, Councilwoman, it's not major trouble. So if we have the opportunity to divert them, and I'm sure they have programs in place right now that help our youth, that you can get them to a area where you can get them help. I'd hopefully identify what the issues are and then get them help. And also, whatever their parents or legal guardians are, issues that they may have at home. And then hopefully find out what the issues are, get them the help that they need, and follow them through that particular process to hope that they don't get involved in the same things again.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go right ahead, Councilman.
I would also like to ask that my name be added in support of this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, what is the status of the current diversion center location? Is that where you would like to stay as to fulfill the needs of the staff and residents, or would you like to see a different strategy?
I think the location, again, I don't want to speak for the diversion center itself, but as far as my offices, I think it's located in a good place right now in East 55th. That our officers from the 1st district or 2nd district, obviously it's in the 3rd district or the 5th district, or the 3rd district, they have kind of a central location to take the individuals to. So I think right now, I think the location is ideal. I'd like to see parking improved a little bit better, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good spot.
We can all understand that. Well, good. Any other questions? Yes, Councilman Gallagher.
A little clarity on that. The committee did discuss that, and the research done is that the ideal spot for diversion would be close to the jail, the new jail. And one of the psychological thoughts is that as the police are dropping them off, they have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to diversion or jail. And if they don't see the jail, they may not take it as seriously as we would hope that they would. So you don't want them attached, but you want within visual of the perpetrator to give them a little bit more of an incentive to take the option of diversion as opposed to jail. So that's still under discussion, but I think a modern facility is necessary for diversion to go forward for the foreseeable future. And those decisions will be made in the next year or two.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Hearing no other comments or questions, can I have a motion to move this item to the full body of the council for second reading, suspension of the rules?
Also move.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays. Congratulations, Chief, and thank you very much for your work and dedication.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you again.
You too.
Okay.
All right, very good. Yes, it's so glad we were able to finally get that done. Clerk, could you please read the next item on the agenda?
Resolution 2022-0151, adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan.
Thank you. Welcome, Buchaheen.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. I'm Albert Buchaheen, the Manager of Classification and Compensation for the Personnel Review Commission. The PRC approved recommending updates to the non-bargaining classification plan at their June 1st, 2022 meeting. All of the 6 revised classifications are routine maintenance, and all of the 20 recommended deletions are a result of employees in those classifications becoming a part of a bargaining unit at the medical examiner's office. The updates were prepared by the PRC staff who worked extensively with the Department of Human Resources staff to ensure the department management is aware of the recommendations before you today. In accordance with PRC rules, the proposed changes were posted on the PRC's website prior to your consideration. I thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Buchaheen? We did notice that there was quite a few, which kind of draws eyebrows up a bit, but I understand that they are moving from one place to another, given the union membership. Is that
Correct, Madam Chair. It's a total of approximately 44 employees that chose to join a bargaining unit.
okay, and is there any budget impact?
From the employees, that I don't know. I believe the contract was just negotiated probably about a month ago.
All right.
I can certainly follow up and see and get you that information, but that's done through the Department of Human Resources and the Law Department. We don't really have anything to do with the collective bargaining process.
We appreciate that. Any other, yes, Councilwoman?
Through the chair to Albert, there were a lot of proposed deleted classifications. It looks like Fraternal Order of Police. Can you, can you share?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Conwell, yes, the Fraternal Order of Police was the organization that organized these employees and negotiated a contract with the county on behalf of them.
Okay, so we do not need those anymore?
Well, once the positions become part of a bargaining unit, we only administer the non-bargaining class plan, so therefore we take them out of the class plan, just part of routine maintenance.
Okay, but they're not necessarily not used, okay.
Oh, no, there's 40-some employees in those positions, so
Okay,
they're needed.
Just wanted to get clear on that. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else doesn't seem so. We have a quorum. May I have a motion to move this item to full body of the council for second reading, full 3 readings?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been approved. Madam Clerk, would you please read the next on the agenda?
Resolution 2022-0177, confirming the county executive's appointment and reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Metro Health System Board of Trustees for various terms.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Corlett here? Please come forward. And Laura Roach, can you give us a little background?
Sure. Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive and pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 339, I'm here to recommend the new appointment of John Corlett. He is a new appointment and will serve an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2026. He's replacing Brenda Kirk, and we are requesting a second reading suspension. Mike Tobin is also here to speak on behalf of Metro Board of Health of Trustees if necessary.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Please give us a little background. State your name and.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's John Corlett. I am in my day job, I'm the President and Executive Director of the Center for Community Solutions, which is a nearly 110-year-old social health and social welfare think tank here in Cleveland, work in the policy space. But my background is I've been involved in health and human services for probably 45 years now. Typically have focused on issues and areas that affect women and children, persons with disabilities, and those areas. For 2 years, I served as the state's Medicaid director for Governor Strickland, and during that time oversaw a number of expansions of Medicaid coverage for persons with disabilities, for pregnant women, for children. I'm proud of those accomplishments. And then following that, I worked for the Metro Health System for 5 years as a vice president of government relations and community affairs. And during that time, I think the piece that I'm most pleased about was the effort that we undertook with Cuyahoga County, with the state of Ohio and the federal government to expand Medicaid a year early in Cuyahoga County that ultimately provided health care coverage for 38,000 uninsured Cuyahoga County residents, and also was what helped Governor Kasich then make his case for expanding Medicaid statewide in Ohio. So I'm proud of that accomplishment. And I think the other thing that as I reflect back on that I think was even maybe more important than that coverage expansion was I feel like that taking that step really transformed the hospital's relationship with the Medicaid program to become a partner. I think up to that point, it often had been adversarial between the hospital and the state, but they became much more of a partner. And I think my predecessors and Dr. Boutros and others at the hospital have really sort of taken that and moved it so much farther forward and an even more positive relationship that I think has benefits for the Metro Health System, has benefits for the residents of Cuyahoga County and for Ohioans.
Great, thank you. Wonderful background. Any questions for our Mr. Corlett? Councilman Miller?
Madam Chair, to Mr. Corlett, thank you very much for being open for this appointment and your record in health and human services, both on the direct service and the policy planning side, is long and well known, and I think you provide exactly the kind of experience and vision that we need to help direct the Metro Health Center. So I support your nomination and wish you the best.
I appreciate that, Councilman Miller.
Thank you. All right, you know, and looking at what you have done, which is very impressive and certainly a reason to ask you to participate in this next venture, what would you like to see? What is your biggest challenge? What is it that you now, in this position that you have and have some influence, what would you like to perhaps see changed or further enhanced?
I don't know that I could speak to what I'd want to see changed until I actually take a seat on the board. But I think what I hope I could do and contribute towards is, I believe I still have very strong relationships in state government with the state Medicaid agency, all the other state health and human service agencies. I'm actually chair of the governor's advisory committee for the Department of Aging and have other relationships. So I want to use those relationships to further those partnerships between the state and between Metro Health and between Cuyahoga County, because I think we get so much more done when we work together. And I think that's what I would focus on.
So the challenges that you see ahead?
Chair Baker, I think one of the challenges that lies ahead will be the eventual unwinding of the public health emergency that has put in place a lot of flexibility around the Medicaid program, around coverage. And I think if there was one thing I'm worried about is how do we make that transition? We all knew that it would be temporary, but even temporary things at some point when you try to unwind them and roll them back, you just have to be very careful about how you do that so people don't get harmed in the process.
Very good, thank you. Anything else?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Miller?
Miller
Yes,
first.
I would like to ask one question, and it's regarding an issue that I know that Metro Health is heavily involved in, and my question is what more could we do to move the needle on the opiate crisis, either in terms of effectiveness of treatment or better prevention?
Yeah, I hesitate to offer much of an opinion about that because I'm not up to date on what Metro is doing. But I know that Metro Health has been a leader in that area since the very beginning, and so I guess I'll have to defer that question until I'm back. If you approve me to be on the board, to learn more about what's current, Metro Health is currently doing. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Through the chair to Mr. Corlett. So in this role, if you move forward on Tuesday, will this be an automatic appointment? You'll be right for their next board meeting?
I don't know actually the timing of it. So I don't know when you all approve and what the timing is for that. So yeah.
Okay. Because I see that I guess I have a question for Lori. These appointments should have been done in March. Do you know why we're late? I know that we have whether Metro is searching for a new CEO and things of that. So I'm assuming that the new board members will play a role in determining who that new CEO.
Yes, Councilwoman Conley. The problem too, not a problem, but we have to get 2 judges to sign off on all appointments, and we had 3. So they have to go to probate court and to common pleas. So sometimes that process of getting the paperwork over and coming back delayed us a little. But I can double check too and see if there were any other reasons. But yeah, we wanted to do all 3 of them at once too and get it done to make it easier.
And will that complete the board, or there's some other appointments coming up?
Almost positive, but I'll have to check with Janae and find out, and I'll get back to you on that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Councilman Miller,
John, good seeing you.
Gallagher, I'm
Boy,
sorry.
we all started this adventure, you way before us, but when we were brand-new freshmen, we went through some tough times, and now driving by Metro around the curve is just, it actually gives you chills that such a building could be built on the spot in which it's being built, and the things that Dr. Boutros has done. It's been wonderful. I think you'd be a perfect person for this position. Your heart obviously is where Metro is, and I wish you nothing but great success. But my main question to you is, what's for dinner tonight? If no one realized, John has his dinner on Facebook, and it's like if you could crawl through the internet, you know?
Mental note, take down Facebook. No.
I wish you luck.
Thank you, Councilman Gallagher. The one thing I should have mentioned is I get all my health care at Metro Health. So I'm a Metro Health patient. And so I always think that gives you good insight into how things actually work, you know, and because they don't know who you are, whatever, and the way you get treated and all that. So I think that's important too.
All right, nothing more I hear. Can I have a motion to move this item to full body of council?
Madam Chair, we have 2 more appointments.
Oh,
on this
that's
one.
right, we take them each at a time. Okay, sorry. We will get to you, but I believe we're finished, so if we could also now bring up for reappointment, Terence Motley. Welcome, Terence.
Thank you,
Please give us a
Councilman
little
Baker.
background of yourself.
I'm a structural civil engineer. I run a heavy highway company, which we employ probably 250 people. We just do bridges and roadway work and deep sewer work. I've been on the board quite a while, and I want to stay on till we get the buildings done. I've been involved with that, the decision we made back in around 2009. It was determined that the hospital was going to cost us more money to do repair work than to build a new one. So that process took a while, and I'm very happy that I'm sort of in charge of that project. The hospital, the Glick Center, we're able to bring in that project on time and below budget, actually. We're starting the Apex building right next to it right now, which is going to house our ambulatory center on the first 3 floors and medical offices on the next 3 floors. When that's done, we're going to be able to tear down the existing ambulatory center between Scranton and 25th Street and build our park in there. At that point, the towers will come down and we will have a brand new campus.
All right, well, very interesting, a little different perspective coming from your reappointment on the board, different than what we've heard. Any questions?
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Councilman Bernard.
thank you very much for your service in providing the critical infrastructure that Metro Health needs. And my question is, what's the target date for completion of what you just described to us?
The hospital actual construction will end in probably the 1st of July. Then we will start the process of getting it certified. And first patient should be in there in September. We'll be moving them from the existing hospital into the new facility. The new Apex project we're talking about hopefully will be done in early 2004. And at that point, we'll start.
2024?
24, I'm sorry.
Right.
And at that point, we will then start demolition of the existing ambulatory center and move them over there, and then the park will start, and we'll start the demolition of the towers. Right now, it's, we're in a critical period with construction cost. As everybody knows, everything is up in price. We've been working really hard to this Apex project to keep it in budget, which we went over a little, our projection, but we were able to trim it down to a real reasonable figure now that falls in line with our bond issues that we put out to finance it. So this has been, for me, an experience trying to keep it always in budget. I personally view every change that's made in the building or change order, I have to see it to approve it to make sure everything is being done properly. As you know, years ago, we had someone embezzle money from us on a construction project, and I came into the board with the mission that under my watch, there'll be no games played. And being in construction, I've seen a lot of them. So I'm adamant on that. I mean, that money that we spend has to be put to good use because of the charity work we do. We can't afford to have any losses.
Wonderful.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Motley. When the towers come down, has the board determined where that big MH will reside? You know, many of us that drive, we're used to seeing that. It's kind of like a landmark. Has that been discussed?
I believe we're actually going to put signage on the parking garage, the one that we built already behind the hospital. But I don't think we're going to reuse that
We're
one.
not going to be able to see it.
No.
Okay.
Because we went also to our new logo and new coloring. And that's under construction right now, the parking garage for the new hospital.
Thank you.
Good to know. You've been under the direction of Dr. Boutros, and of course, he will be leaving soon. Does that impact anything of your direction or vision or what you committed to see finished? How does that, or do you think it'll be seamless with the next person?
Well, Dr. Boutros and I work really close. We talk twice a week on any problems. And I know what his thoughts processes are. And I don't see any problem with it. I know what I have to follow through with. And I know how he has handled some of the financial end of it. So I don't see a problem with it.
I'm glad you're there and
Thank
that you have that background and experience. How many years have you been on the?
17.
17 years. Well, thank you for that service.
I had brown hair when I started.
I know. We can all kind of say that. Okay, so anything else? No. May I have a motion to move this item?
Excuse me,
I'm sorry,
Madam.
we have one more. I keep forgetting that. One more. We're going to have Mr. John Moss. And then we'll be ready. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, council members. My name's John Moss. I've been on the board for 12 years. What got me on the board and why I'm reapplying today is I live in Tremont. I've lived there for 33 years, raised my family in Tremont, and about 27 years ago, Gail Long, who operated the Merrick House, Metro was seeking someone to sit on the ethics committee. So I sat on the ethics committee for a number of years, which was very interesting, and got kind of involved and on the foundation committee. My background is finance. I'm a financial advisor at UBS for the last 6 years. I was at Merrill Lynch for the last 22 years. I'm also, and even back in for the last 27 years, been a patient of Metro, as my family has. My father was a patient at Metro, so as said before, I think that's important. Gives a quality test. I sat on the quality committee. I chaired that for a number of years, which was daunting because it's completely very complicated. And I've chaired the finance committee for the last 4 years. And that's been very interesting and also very complicated. So I want to kind of continue on that. When I was on the board originally, we had at one time a $40 million deficit. Last year we had 190 EBITDA, earnings before income depreciation. We had $190 million profit. The year before that, $230 million. We need $63 million to cover the expenses of the new hospital when all said and done. So as, Terry, and we've got a good board, I'm going to kind of continue along that process and keep track of that and keep the momentum going. It's been an honor and rewarding serving on this committee, so I hope to continue to do so.
Hey, thank you. I'm impressed by the different backgrounds we have here today serving on this board. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
To John, thank you very much for your long service to Metro Health Hospital, and I appreciate your willingness to continue to serve. And my question is how do you anticipate the current macroeconomic environment, which is characterized by rapidly rising interest rates and the threat of recession? How do you expect that environment to impact Metro Health Hospital and its finances?
Well, that's a good question, because we had that at the last meeting. We talked a lot about that and whether or not, some of Medicare and Medicaid, which is being a bigger and bigger part of our revenue, is has a little bit of an inflationary offset. So we're kind of looking at that, and that looks good. Of the $32 million you give us, which we appreciate, that can always go up a little bit. But so we're watching it. We're concerned. But, people still need procedures done, and, wages are going up. That's true. But I think it'll have an impact, but I don't think it'll be detrimental. So maybe, they'll cut a little bit off the top. Some of the other things we have going for us that have been huge has been like the pharmaceuticals. So if you go to Metro, you can save 80 to 90% on your drug prescriptions than if you go to a pharmacy. So we've taken advantage of that. So maybe in a bad economy, people may actually end up going to Metro more because we're a low cost provider. And with a new hospital, trying to get away from being the poor person's hospital, there'll be a good feeling about going to Metro and attracting people. And also, as we look at the aging of the baby boomers, and of course you all know that our county's getting older, we're in a good position to capture that market. So challenges ahead, we're aware of it, so we're keeping an eye on it, and we're talking about it. But like everybody, we're kind of, the supply costs, the wage costs, we're all kind of looking at that and measuring that about if we increase costs, can we make that up?
Good.
Through the chair to John, since you've been on there quite a while. Metro, do you have, there's a big campus and they spread out into the communities. Is the board presented with like maintenance and, for all the buildings, so you kind of know what needs some care here and there? And
Yes.
I know with the main campus, this is why we're having but just wondering how they share that with you guys.
So good question, because actually, the main campus, what we're talking about here, that's actually why it led us to a new hospital and the outpatients, so everything's going to be new. So we're actually looking at, we should have some savings, a lot of money going into things we just have to get done, HVAC sometimes, to make the hospital running, and antiquated and old. So we actually see going forward some cost savings there. Once, the 64 million we're going to have to pay for the mortgage and all that, but above that, the maintenance thing, we're expecting to see some savings.
Okay.
And, as we're going to have a park, and, it's going to be beautiful and great. And
is that something that you could share with us, that the maintenance of, or your maintenance plan with the other hospitals and things? I know you have a savings, or is that just shared, internally with the board?
We have a CAP program. I think that's public information. We can get you that.
Okay.
I can ask. We'd be happy to provide that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing nothing else, I do want to recognize Mike Tobin. Thank you for being here. Outstanding candidates that you brought forward. We appreciate it. All right. Now I can ask. Can I have a motion to move this item for the appointment of Mr. John Corlett, reappointment of Terence Motley, and reappointment of John Moss to the full body of council for second reading under suspension of the rules?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays. All of you, thank you for your hard work and appointment and reappointment. We appreciate it. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please read the next item on the agenda?
Resolution 2022-0178, confirming the county executive's appointment and reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for the term June 1st, 2022 to May 31st, 2027.
Thank you. And Laura Roach, please give us some background.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Matt Carroll and Ron King to the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees. Matt Carroll is a reappointment and will serve a 5-year term, June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2027. Ron King is a new appointment and will serve a 5-year term, June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2027. He will be replacing Terry Augusta. We are requesting a second reading suspension, and Todd Greathouse and Brian Kelly are here to speak on behalf of the Gateway Economic Development Corporation Board of Trustees if necessary.
All right, thank you very much. For our appointment, Mr. Ron King.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question of Lori? Are there any women that sit on this board?
I would have to check. I don't know if, I'm sorry, if Brian or Todd know that.
Okay.
But I can look. Hold on, I actually probably have it in here. Oh, Davita Russell, I'm being told. Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Mr. King. Please give us a little background on yourself.
Good morning, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Ron King. I am currently the general manager of the Huntington Convention Center. I've had over 40 years' experience in public assembly facility management, everything from equestrian parks and theaters, convention centers and sporting arenas. Through that 30 years, I've been involved, of course, with many construction projects, capital projects, that type of thing. Most recently, before coming to Cleveland, I was a director for the city department in Dallas, Texas, that oversaw not only the convention center, but also acted as landlord's rep for the American Airlines Center and the Omni Hotel. So I have some experience in all of these types of ventures. I also firmly believe that for economic development and for the betterment of the county and the region, to have a healthy, thriving sports complexes that not only bring in economic development for the county, but can also enlighten and enhance people's perception of the area is extremely important.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. King? Sounds like you have a very good background in the appointment of this board, and we appreciate that you are willing to take that on.
Thank you.
Being you are an appointment, it's not too many questions we can ask. I do have a few for the reappointment, but if there's no other questions, why don't we bring up Mr. Carroll?
Morning, Madam Chair. Matt Carroll,
Yes.
County Executive's Office, members of the committee.
Please give us maybe a little background of specifically to this board.
Madam Chair, I think I've been on the board since 2011, and as you all may know, the Gateway has 5 members. It has generally has had a city employee appointment, a county employee appointment. There's a joint appointment between the city and the county, and then 2 other individuals, one each, and Ron would be the county's other appointment, obviously. So I have served since that time. I'd say that I've learned quite a bit about facilities and how the operation works. Of course, as you know, Gateway is the landlord for the 2 sports facilities. A lot goes into that. We're really lucky to have people like Todd and Brian. Todd's been there 27 years. Brian has been there, I think, over 20 years. They have a total of 4 or 5 staff. They do a ton of work and keep things running. They basically make sure that every project that comes forward, every capital project, is heavily reviewed, is cost-effective, and is managed properly. I think they've done a very good job over the years in tracking
MBE and FBE performance and have taken, I think, some pretty positive steps toward improving that kind of how that work is done. And obviously, a lot of work is done in the two sites. So, I've enjoyed serving on the board. Like I said, I think I've learned a lot from my time there, and I can continue to contribute.
Good, thank you. We appreciate that work. Any questions for Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Councilman Miller? Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, to Mr. Carroll, thank you very much for serving on this very important board, and my questions relate to the progressive field improvements. First question is whether we remain on track to begin construction of those improvements following the conclusion of this year's baseball season. And the second question is whether we have run into any cost issues because of the escalation in the cost of construction materials.
Through the chair to the councilman, as far as I know, the projects are on schedule. I think the cost escalation will always be an issue. I think something that Todd and Brian could speak to more specifically, but I think they've done a very good job over time in making sure that costs are minimized. As you know, when the package was brought to you, it was there were projections about what various parts of the facility would cost. So as those things are done and those become real, it's a really careful analysis of how to be most cost effective with it. And it would be a case by case effort to make sure that it's as efficient as it can be. So I'm not aware of any serious issues. I think the cost escalation thing is an ongoing challenge for everybody. But it's I'm sure it's something that the Gateway could provide a detailed kind of update. I think they'd be happy to come to council and do that, just to give a status report.
Madam Chair, Mr. Carroll, do you know if any of the materials have already been acquired or the price locked in?
Through the chair, council, I'm not aware specifically of the progress of individual work. I've seen some reports of it, but I have not heard any alarm bells about the work that's ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councilman.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Carroll, how many board of directors do you have? Is it 4?
Through the chair, councilman, we have 5.
Only 4 is listed on the website. All right. So Mr. King would be, he's not really replacing anybody, he's just being added.
Through the chair, he would replace Terry Augusta, so maybe they took Terry's name off, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
But yeah, he would be the.
Yeah, they're up to date.
Yeah, he would be the other county appointee.
Okay, thank you.
And you may need a lifeline from Brian or Todd, but legalized sports betting is moving forward in Ohio. Will there be betting kiosks on Gateway property? Do you have that answer, or do you need some help?
Madam Chair, I don't know the answer. That would be something I'm sure we would look at. And I think it's something that I know Bob France, for example, has been tracking, as the county's financial advisor, just in general. But I'm sure there'll be a regulatory process, and I'm not sure if anybody can speak to that right now. But
Discussions?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, go ahead, Councilman Gallagher.
Yeah, well, when we redid the contract with Dolan's, that's their cost. So they can do it, it's their cost. And the same with the arena. So but most of it's going to be on your phone anyhow.
Thank you.
Also, the Guardians just signed an extension, keeping the team in Cleveland. What proactive steps can Gateway make to make sure that they stay? Discuss that.
Madam Chair, for after that period?
Yes.
Well, as you know, there is an extension potential in the two possible extensions in that. I think that would be something we'd all keep a close eye on. It's kind of hard to think about that far in the future right now, but it's obviously something we'd all be committed to. And the reason we included it is to have that opportunity. So we hope that stays.
First extension is for how long?
I believe they're both for 5 years after the end of the current project. No, it's eight, it's eight, the current one goes 18 years approximately, but
Okay.
after that, then, yeah,
Well, that is a little while. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I would like to have a motion to move this item to full body of the council for the appointment of Ron King and reappointment of Matthew Carroll for second reading under suspension of the rules.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. Thank you both. We appreciate your work on this and look forward to hearing more. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the next item on the agenda?
Resolution 2022-0179, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Paul Hurdick and Ethan Carp to serve on the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Board for the term July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
All right, Mr. Hurdick, familiar face here. And is Ethan Carp also here? Okay, good. We'll bring you up in a minute.
Madam Chair, what was the last one passed, the second reading? The last, was the second reading?
Second reading suspension.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, members of council. Paul Hurdick, Director of Development. It's a privilege to be asked to continue to serve on the Workforce Development Board. I serve along with Matt Carroll and David Merriman as the county's representatives. We look forward to continuing the good work. Just briefly, the Mayor of Cleveland very recently announced publicly the appointment of Michelle Rose as the new Workforce Board Executive Director. We're very excited about this. Michelle brings considerable experience, most recently serving in Washington, D.C. with the United States Department of Labor. And one of our next orders of business as a board and also as the county will be to complete the process of hiring her deputy now that she's on board. The deputy is a county appointment. The director is a city employment. So we are working to have that done speedily so that the good work can continue.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, we are all familiar with your work and are glad that you're going to be continuing on this board. Any questions for Mr. Hurdick?
I have one.
Willer?
Madam Chair, Director, my question is to ask if you could describe the relationship and coordination between the work of the Workforce Development Board and the work of the sector partnerships.
Thank you, Councilman. That's a great question, which deserves both a short and a long answer. The short answer is that it ought to be better coordinated, and I believe that it will be better coordinated now that we have good city-county collaboration, working with Mayor Bibb and, fresh leadership at the Workforce Development Board. The longer version would delve back into some of the history of friction and dysfunction, which has made the Workforce Development Board perhaps less effective than it could have been, so that the current administration here felt it necessary to convene a parallel group of funders. But I think it's everyone's hope that the work of the two groups will be very closely coordinated, and that going forward there will truly be one workforce strategy that everyone supports.
Very good. Good to know. Good question. Any other? All right. Well, we all know that the challenges of the COVID certainly made its impact everywhere, and workforce training isn't anything different. How do you see that coming out of that now? Are you seeing more people wanting to get back into workforce training? Was there an interruption, or did you flow from one to the other? How is the transition?
Chair, we are still in a very challenged situation in all sectors of employment, and for multiple reasons, not all having to do with COVID. Some of them are structural in the economy, and we find ourselves still with what I've described as a mismatch. We have employers begging for employees to work for them, and sadly, we have too many residents still not having well-paid jobs. I think one of the challenges of our workforce system as a system is to really understand identify the barriers that are creating this mismatch, and to really meet our residents where they are with services that will help them get across those barriers, as well as, continued work with their employers so that the employers themselves can see the value of running their hiring, running their training, running their workplaces in a way that fully supports the workers. There is no easy answer to this, but with work on both sides, I believe we can make progress.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. I agree. I think there is work on both sides, and it is very challenging right now, but you've identified it, and thank you for your work. Anything else? All right. Thank you. If we can please bring up also Mr. Ethan Karn.
Good morning.
Good morning. Carp, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So please introduce yourself.
So Ethan Carp, CEO and president of Magnet. Very, very pleased to be up here. My first introduction to council was, I think, about 8 years ago for this appointment. So I am the current board chair of the advisory board for the Workforce Development Board. The question asked earlier about sector partnership, I'll address that one in a second because we obviously we won one of those sector partnerships. We represent in this board the manufacturing community, and that's what we've done for the last 8 years. And since January of 2020, when I actually took over the chair role, we've seen a lot of changes. We've seen leadership changes of longtime employees, retirements of employees, and you heard the deputy, and very proudly the CEO is now, we have helped recruit them, and they're coming here, so that'll be a great change for the organization. But just want to give kudos to Ida here, who has kept everything running along the tracks so supremely well over the last few years, certainly since Frank's retirement. A few things just over the last couple years that we've been really pushing on are raising the number, and I think originally the whole idea of the sector partnership initiative, which I think is completely complementary and still needed, was to raise the number of people going into training into career pathways. So IT, healthcare, manufacturing. We have double or tripled, I believe, the last number of people going into those career pathways. That being said, the challenges of recruiting people writ large are to an all-time high right now, and that has underpinned a lot of the transparency that we've undergone. We've hired consultants to really look at how are we delivering these services. OMJ, Workforce Development Board, they are the behemoth in the workforce community, 15,000 people going through their doors. So if we don't serve individuals well through OMJ, then we are both doing, on an equity standpoint, a disservice to this community, and just from a business perspective, we're not getting people into those roles, and the cycles of poverty will continue. So all of this is to say that we are making traction. We've elevated our outcomes, not just saying, okay, here's what the government wants us to do, not you all, but state funders, federal funders. Here's what our community cares about. Here's what our mission is, racial equity. We care deeply about this. So we've taken steps to make that more transparent, to measure against it. Our most recent RFP process we're in the middle of has focused on how do we bring not only different outcomes and metrics, how do we bring different levels of collaboration. So to the question about sector partnership, at least for manufacturing, I can say very, very good alignment. In fact, most of the programs that we're running, the access programs you guys have heard of, et cetera, that you've now funded through your other stream, all the startup funds for that actually came through OMJ and the work that Ida and Frank did to figure out how could they flexibly use funds to work with employers in new ways. So these are just some of the examples of the things that we've been working on. Obviously, having the recruitment of this new CEO will be great so that we can continue, which we've done a lot of, raising the reputation of this organization, the amount of collaboration, and our focus on equity, both through DEI councils, and the vast majority of the work we do ends up taking people of color and getting them in, hopefully, into good paying jobs. So thank you for being here.
Great overview. Questions for our guest, Mr. Carp? Just one, I guess I'm curious. And I certainly understand the challenges, and part of it is COVID, but part of it is also other more complicated issues. And I understand the consultants and the maybe refocus of where you're at. When do you think you will take hold of the challenges? When do you think your consultants and those that are advising you will say, this is what we need to do, this is how we move forward, and this is how we get people who are perhaps the most difficult, the needed training they need, and into, when will we start seeing it at a peak now start going the other way?
So it's not on the consultants. the consultants have pointed out, here's what need to change. The structure of the organization, at least currently as it's formed, is there's a small core of individuals like Ida who hold everything together and all the many partnerships, and there are contracts given out through RFPs, multi-year RFPs, to actually do the work on the ground level. Hence the refashioning of an RFP that reflects both values that we've put in place, our strategic plan, and everything that I just described to you. Working with sector partnerships is an explicit call out in that RFP. That is a necessary step to get a provider with a contract that can work with us in the way that we need to work to be able to do that. Now, once that's in place, that creates, I guess, the conditions for success, but there still is very real, how do we get into the communities? Going back to what you all have funded through the few weeks ago through the manufacturing sector partnership, but it's going to extend throughout, which is how do we get into the communities to get more people coming through the door. So that is our, and that might be COVID, but it's just the sign of the times. That also needs to happen in a way that it maybe didn't have to happen 4 years ago. So we're going to need to work on that. And we discuss continuously at executive committee and on the board, how are we going to incentivize all of our providers that we give money to do that.
Okay, I tend to be results driven, and I guess I'm just asking for, when do you think that collaboration and the work, and you've gotten the results from your consultants and you're putting together a plan, when will
I
you
think
come
there's going to
before us and say, all of this has resulted in a employment increase for those that we were most concerned about, and we see the trend changing?
I hope within a year you're already seeing the trend changing. How large in the absolute value, I can't say, but these new RFPs will be in place. We'll have a new leader in place. That money and the sector partnerships will be working in concert together. So we're all pegging ourselves on seeing that increase.
Rowing in the same direction. Okay, well, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
We will ask that again.
It's a great question.
Time passes.
Please do.
All right, well, both really, thank you for
welcome.
being here and taking on this responsibility, and you too, Mr. Carroll. So, Mr. Hurdick, I meant to say. So I will make a motion to move this item to full body of council for second reading under suspension of the rules for both Mr. Hurdick and Mr. Ethan Carp. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays, congratulations to both of you, and we appreciate your work. All right, it's a long agenda here today. We please have the next item read into the record.
Resolution 2022-0180, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Gregory Bain, MD, to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for the term July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2026.
Thank you. Laura Roach, please give us some background.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Dr. Gregory Bain to the Cuyahoga County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board. Dr. Bain is a reappointment and will serve a 4-year term, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026. We are requesting a second reading suspension, and Scott Osecki and Linda Lamp are here to speak on behalf of the Adams Board if necessary. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And welcome, Mr. Bain. Please give us a little background of yourself.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm Dr. Greg Bain. I'm a physician. I'm board certified in psychiatry, addiction medicine, and child and adolescent psychiatry, and I've been in practice for 43 years. The first 12 years was in Cincinnati and Youngstown, where I trained in Cincinnati Medical School. The last 31 years in Cleveland, where I'm from originally. And in those 31 years, I have served, am I okay?
No, I was just looking for Mr. Osecki. I think he's just behind you. Go ahead.
Okay. In those 31 years, I've served 15 years as medical director of Whitehaven, homeless residential treatment center for homeless addicted men and women, 8 years as medical director of Stella Maris, and 3 years at Recovery Resources. 4 years ago, I was elected president of the Ohio Society of Addiction Medicine, where I serve now as the immediate past president and as chair of the Education Committee. I get to plan the yearly state conference, which you're all invited to, October 7th in Columbus. The only, a weekend where the Buckeyes are not playing, so you can feel safe to come. Anyway, also, I serve on the American Society of Addiction Medicine Board as regional director for Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, and I'm on the Ethics Committee and the Pain and Addiction Committee for the American Society of Addiction Medicine. I think I want to just stress that I've really thoroughly enjoyed the relationships I've developed with the other board members and with Mr. Scott Osicki and his staff that work tirelessly to try and improve accessibility of drug treatment for all people. It's a huge problem because the workforce was underpaid before COVID, before the recent escalation of oil, rent, gas, et cetera. And I know this is a challenge we all we all face. And then lastly, I just want to put a plug in. We've really got to establish addiction treatment standardized in all city, county, state, federal prisons. It is real hit and miss. You know, for years I worked on the early release program from prison, and it's marvelous when people are given a chance. Rhode Island did this 5 years ago. They reduced the overdose death rate in 1 year by 62%. You would think after 5 years, every other state, because they save billions of dollars in recidivism, property crime, treatment, you would think we'd all be racing to do this. No other state has.
How did they do that?
They required it. They legally mandated that all prisons, city, county, state, and federal, provide standardized addiction treatment while they're incarcerated. And they reduced the overdose death rate by 62%. In 1 year. You would think that would speak volumes to all of us. But we are resilient as a culture. We believe in incarceration, we believe in punishment, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, well, that's fascinating. Thank you. Questions? Councilman Gallagher?
Yes. Doctor, thank you for being here. I think you'll be happy to know that when we do build our new jail, I don't know if you've been following that.
Yes.
But we'll have 300, we anticipate 300 medical beds, most specifically for those with addictions, because that's what we see at our jail down here, and we're not in a position where we can provide anything in not just the facility, but it's just not a good place.
Right.
And it's not a good place to help people. We only have them usually for a short period of time, but any period of time that we can get people medical treatment is going to be, I think, important. And then out the door, we can associate them in some way, maybe with Metro Hospital and direct them that way. So we're heading that way. We're going to expand that with Metro when we do open. That's in the plans. That's ready to go. It's going to be a couple of years before we get there, but I'm very excited with that. And our partnership with Metro Hospital has been fantastic. I personally think we've saved lives just by having them there, which you just can't put a price on that. Mike, just recently we had we had our opioid addiction settlement money. There's now been recently a proposal, and it's just a proposal, that we take $10 million of those dollars and create some sort of a board and fund research on opioid addiction. My position has always been we don't have enough in traditional medical attention to those with problems, and I don't think we have enough beds. I don't know if you ever have enough beds. What would your position be? I don't think government should be out there exploring for new things. That's where the market is. And we do have few dollars left, and I say few when I say 10 million, but is it worth it to roll the dice? And that was the term, we're rolling the dice on $10 million, or is it wise to place that 10 million towards a traditional form of treatment?
Great question. And I have been following all the updates to the Cuyahoga County Jail. That is fantastic. And there's so much more. I see men and women coming out of the jail, and it's quite an achievement just to survive, and they've done so much to improve it. It's great. I don't know all the ins and outs of this proposal, but you're right. I think we know what needs to be done. I don't think we need research. I think we need to make more treatment available and accessible. Let me just mention one other. I think we should require treatment for anyone who is caught with possession. One other country did this 20 years ago, Portugal. The highest overdose death rate in the EU finally required it of anyone who was caught with possession. They reduced the overdose death rate by 90% in 5 years, saved billions of dollars again in recidivism, treatment, property crime, et cetera. I think we have really good data to show what we need to do to make treatment required and available and accessible, and I would love to participate in any way I can to help with that.
Yes, go right. You want to follow up?
If you could get me the information on Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I do question the state of Ohio and the way in which they handle their prisons. And
Yep.
it seems that they're cutting every corner they can and throwing the problem our way. And
Yep.
that's just not on the adult side. That's particularly on the juvenile side. And we're really not in a position as a county, and specifically Cleveland as a city, to handle what's being forced back to us from Columbus. So I don't know if that's a proper place to go to start it, but I'd be interested to see what Rhode Island did. Did it start
Absolutely.
at city level, the county level, or was that a state initiative? My prayer would be it was a county initiative where we could actually have a pilot.
Yeah.
At which I think we'd be in a position with a new jail and a new facility and the ability to have a, no pun intended, captured audience of 300 where we could get some good
Right.
data.
And the new diversion center. This is, the first in Ohio.
Very
This
important.
fantastic. We're going in the right direction. It's just very slow going.
Government is very grinding.
I would
and
love
it's
to send.
frustrating.
Yeah, I would love to send you those articles. I don't know how.
If you could, I'd appreciate that.
I would send it to.
And,
I can help you. Yeah, Dr. Bain, I can help you.
Good.
And we can
Great.
make sure.
Great topic for discussion. Thank you.
Councilman Miller?
Yes. To Dr. Bohm on the.
Bain, yeah, that's
Bain,
right.
sorry.
That's right.
To Dr. Bain on the Rhode Island results. Did they decrease the opiate overdose rate by 63% in the prison population or in the statewide population?
Yeah, overall, 62%. But you have to understand the overdose death rate coming out of prison, the first 2 months is 40 times higher than any other time of a man or woman's life. 40 times higher. So it's critical that we make an intervention. And they've proved it by making mandatory treatment in all prisons.
Okay, so it had a 62% statewide impact.
1 year, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll send it to you, yeah.
I'd be interested in reading that too.
Good.
If I may ask, going back to the innovation and trying to figure out, because if I'm not mistaken, our opiate addiction has increased.
Yep.
And our deaths have increased.
Fentanyl, yep.
So it's not a direction that we want to see continue. And I think the thought was, is there anything we can do to be more proactive? Anything we can do that's not something being done? We certainly need to take care of those that are in need of treatment, but that's after the fact.
Yep.
Especially with your background, is there anything that, and I have been listening and hearing you, but is there anything that you can think of that we're not doing that is perhaps not something that is readily thought of or used because it's something different that would be more innovative to try and capture why it is those that begin on drugs get there to begin with? So I know that's a big question and it's maybe unfair to ask, but I think that was part of the conversation.
Yes, without a doubt, fentanyl has changed the whole situation. It's 100 to 1,000 times stronger. It takes 3 kernels of fentanyl as opposed to an ounce of heroin to be lethal. 3 kernels. It costs the cartels 10 times less to make fentanyl because it's all synthetic. They don't have to grow opium. So we're up against a huge problem there, number one. Number two, I really like this idea of making naloxone, Narcan available in boxes everywhere. I mean, there's no reason we don't. And then lastly, I do think buprenorphine Suboxone treatment is so effective. It's so reliable. It's so safe. We've overregulated it. Why didn't we overregulate opiates? Don't get me started. But anyway, buprenorphine should be made more available and accessible, so along with Narcan. Mm-hmm.
So I guess your answers are all for treatment. They're all for after the fact. They're all for increasing those opportunities. There is nothing in your war chest that you could perhaps have thought about or would like to see?
Yes, absolutely.
Whether it's education or different,
So one of the contributing factors for teenagers that develop a substance use disorder is trauma. And this has been shown. 80% of teenagers who eventually get hooked have been physically or sexually abused. Okay. And so we need to be very proactive about providing discussion, education, and treatment for, I think that's a huge factor all on its own. It makes a person more susceptible to want to be numbed by the drugs.
Right. That's a good point. And how would you go about reaching out to those teenagers in the schools?
Yes, I definitely would. I would love to have a chance to have access to work with anybody in the schools, but I know we're all worried about schools to begin with.
That's good. But I believe that was part of the conversation when we talk about being proactive. Of course, we need to keep funding those that are in need of treatment, but wouldn't it be amazing if we could perhaps, if trauma and young teenagers, if we can get their attention, if that's 80%, that would be quite a accomplishment.
And you know, Ohio is number 1 or 2 every year in overdose deaths. Unbelievable. We're number 4 in traffic victims. Number 4 in the country in the number of victims of sex and physical abuse.
You connect those dots.
Pardon?
You connect the dots.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yes, absolutely.
To the chair, to the doctor, what is the cost of naloxone?
Naloxone is...
Is it reasonable?
Yes, and Medicaid pays for it all. You know, it's free and available. I write that prescription for everyone who comes in to our office to say you should make this available at your home at all times because people do relapse. Even successful people in treatment relapse, and they should be given another chance. And as you know, with fentanyl, we've had to increase the Narcan naloxone 4 to 5 times greater. The cartels are always ahead of us. Yeah.
Well, you stated that we should have it everywhere, so I was just thinking about that cost, like if there's in public bathrooms or things of that nature. Is that something that you have advocated downstate for?
Yes,
in their budget?
Both in Columbus and in Washington. And we're trying to require addiction medicine treatment education from day one in medical schools all over so that every specialty can feel comfortable making a diagnosis and referral. You know, this is a real problem with the healthcare industry. Everyone has a silo mentality. They just want to deal with, and it's really hard to make, but that's what we're doing at the American Society of Addiction Medicine.
Thank you.
Fascinating. And you know, we hear too that once you get the treatment and you're on a better course and you slip back, you go back to the large amount you were taking because that's what you're used to taking and your body can't absorb it.
Right. You develop tolerance to the euphoric effect immediately, 3 to 5 days. You do not develop tolerance to the respiratory cessation, which is what causes the overdose. People stop breathing in their sleep.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for our guests?
I'll send those materials to you, though.
We would appreciate it. All right. May I have a motion to move this motion of Dr. Bain?
Thank you, ma'am.
So moved.
Second reading, suspension of rules.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays. Thank you, and we
Thank you, Madam
appreciate your
Chair.
work.
Thank you.
All right, clerk, would you please read, is this our last? No, please read the next item into the
Resolution 2022-0181, confirming the county executive's appointment of Colleen Cotter to serve on the Cuyahoga County Citizens Advisory Council on Equity for an unexpired term ending July 14th, 2024.
Thank you. Laura Roach, please give us a background.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Colleen Cadder to the Cuyahoga County Citizens Advisory Council on Equity. Colleen Cotter is a new appointment and will serve an unexpired term ending July 14, 2024. She will be replacing Rabbi Joshua, I don't even want to say it wrong, Caruso. We are requesting a second reading suspension.
Thank you. Is Colleen Cotter, please come forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
To Ms. Roach, with this appointment, will all the spots on the Citizens Advisory Council be filled, or are there other vacancies?
I'm glad you asked. I just found that out, and I'm told that we have one more after this that we will have to fill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Please give a little background of yourself.
Thank you. I'm Colleen Cotter. I'm Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. That's my day job. I've been Executive Director at Legal Aid for 17 years. And Legal Aid is a nonprofit law firm providing civil legal assistance to people in poverty. We focus on securing shelter, safety, health, economic security, and ensuring that that government agencies and our court system are accountable and accessible.
Very good. Very impressive background. Any questions?
Yes, through the chair to Executive Director Cotter. I'm glad you came in today and was being appointed. I've had recently several constituents call me and share that, they don't think that they've been turned away from assistance and help. And I know the county and we assist you guys in making sure that there's funding to make sure that we help individuals in the county. So I would love to have at some later time, maybe I think it's kind of quick to ask you in July, but if you're willing to come in July, because we take kind of a hiatus in August or September to do a presentation in my committee, which is Health and Human Services.
We would love to do that, and you name the date and we will be there. If I can, though, respond briefly to your inquiry. So Legal Aid provides advice and representation to about 7,000 people a year, impacting 17,000 family members. And that's a lot of people. But there are a lot more people who need our services. And in this country, our federal funder, the Legal Services Corporation, recently released a new study on the justice gap. That's the term referring to the fact that in this country, only 8% of people in poverty who need a lawyer get a lawyer. 8%. That is the system in the United States of America, in our democracy, because we have not, as a country, funded civil legal assistance. There is a right to court-appointed counsel if you are charged with a crime, as there should be. That is in the Constitution. But if you are in a situation where you are faced with losing your home, whether you own it or rent it, you are a domestic violence survivor who is seeking a protection order, custody of your children, possession of your home for your children to live, if you have a tax controversy with the IRS or the state, if you need to get an expungement of an old criminal record. I could go on and on about the barriers that we have put before people in poverty, and especially people of color in our country, and we don't have a mechanism for fully funded representation in those situations. So at the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, we are very focused on building our stack of resources, the county being one of those, to increase representation for people. But I am afraid that I will still have to tell you that we do have to turn people away, because that's the system that we live in this country. But together, we can help to change that. And at Legal Aid, we are especially very focused right now on examining issues of barriers to opportunity, especially for people of color, because we recognize that through issues like the history of redlining, barriers to employment, barriers to credit, the wealth gap, we have erected these barriers, and together we need to bring them down, which is why I'm very honored to be nominated to this committee.
I thank you for that. That kind of lines up and gives me a better perspective, and so we look forward to, I'll have clerk reach out to your office and see if we can get you on the July schedule. If not, probably September.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Miller, yes. Do you have a question?
I do. Couple questions. First of all, thank you very much for your leadership and willingness to serve on this important advisory council. My first question is whether you feel that the recent Supreme Court decision regarding abortion has created new equity concerns.
I thank you, Councilman, for the question. I do think that the Dobbs decision creates additional barriers to opportunity for women, and in particular, low-income women with decreased access to reproductive health care. I do think that that's going to be a challenge for the community. So looking at not just ways to assist with access, but also ways to assist young families. And, you know, the barriers of cost of childcare are huge, and the balance of paying for childcare versus working, and that often work doesn't pay for the childcare, creates barriers to continuing on a pathway, a career pathway. So we have a lot of work to do.
Madam Chair, Ms. Cotter, my second question is whether you feel that in addition to expanding access to legal representation for low-income people, do you think that we should, and do you think that we can reduce the complexity of some of our legal processes so that that for at least some of them that people can deal with them without legal assistance?
Councilman, thank you. I absolutely do. I don't know whether that is within the purview of the Citizens Advisory Committee on Equity, but perhaps it should be. And since Clerk Byrd is the liaison for that, will be a good conversation. I absolutely, the reality is that nationally, 75% of civil cases in this country, so where there's not a criminal issue, 70% of cases, at least one of the party is unrepresented. And we know in things like housing court, it's before right to counsel was established in Cleveland, only 2% of tenants were represented. And yet we have a system that is designed by lawyers for lawyers, making it very complicated for folks who don't have that special training. It's not magic, it's not rocket science, but it is special training. And without that knowledge, it can be very difficult to navigate. And we have erected rules where it's difficult for people who aren't lawyers to help other people navigate. So even more complex. So I do think that in order to address the justice gap that I was just discussing, redesigning our court system so that less complex cases and cases where less is at risk can be navigated without a lawyer, and the lawyers can focus on the more complex cases and where more is at risk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds like you're well qualified, and thank you for stepping up to take part on the Equity Council advisory. So let's see, no other questions?
I'd just like to say, Chair, I think she should have been on the new jail steering committee.
All right, well, gotta go. So we are going to make a motion to move this item to full body of council for second reading under suspension of the rules. May I have it?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. Good luck. All right, we are on our final. That's been almost 2 hours of appointments today. We're going strong. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read to this in the record?
Resolution 2022-0182, confirming the county executive's appointment of Jonathan Stone to serve on the AIDS Funding Collaborative Advisory Committee for the term July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
Laura Roach, please give us some background.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Jonathan Stone to the AIDS Funding Collaborative Advisory Committee. Jonathan Stone is a new appointment and will serve a 3-year term, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. He's filling a vacancy. We are requesting second reading suspension, and Sabrina Roberts is here to speak on behalf of the AIDS Funding Collaborative Advisory Committee if necessary.
Great, thank you very much, and welcome, Mr. Stone. Please give us a little background.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Baker and members of the committee. Thank you for having me this morning to talk about myself and why I would like to serve on the AIDS Funding Collaborative Committee. I am Jonathan Stone. I am the Retail Development Director at Downtown Cleveland Alliance, where we are the only nonprofit dedicated to building vibrant downtown. In my work, I work as a retail development director for attracting retail, minority business development, and business development marketing. I also served in a previous position as marketing manager and communications manager for that organization. In previous careers, I served as a supervisor for an after-school youth development program called Open Doors Academy. I also held a position as a case manager for Meredith Taylor Health and Human Service Systems. I also served as a marketing coordinator for Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. So given my experience, I consider myself a public servant who cares deeply about the health, growth of people. And so I would like to serve on this committee in order to impact a community that suffers from a disease that impacts my community. So given my experience, who I am as a person, I'm also a father of 2 children. I am a yogi, and so I care about people deeply and their health and well-being. So I would really like to serve on this committee.
All right, well, thank you very much, and thank you for your past service on many different areas. Any questions for our guest? Yes, Councilwoman.
Through the chair to Mr. Stone, welcome. You look fairly young. That's a good thing.
That's what I'm told.
That's a good thing. You've been at CMHA. You stated you're now interested. You're currently a retail development director. Is that with Positively Cleveland? Who is that with?
Downtown Cleveland Alliance.
Downtown. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And who's the CEO and president now?
Michael Deemer.
Okay, I haven't met him. And if you could please give Jim in the back your business card when you leave. I think it's time for me to circle back with Downtown Alliance. It's been a minute, and just to see not only with retail development, what was my other thought? Can't think of it at the moment, but just to meet some of the other development directors and see what's going on, what do you have planned for downtown. I really like the program where they have the street ambassadors. I love that. I love that program. I think it really helps assist keeping downtown safe, and I've always wanted to touch base more about that. And I can't think of the gentleman that was there beforehand. It hurt me for not knowing. But being able to have that ambassador, street ambassador kind of assistance in other neighborhoods would be a good thing to have, I think. And I know the last time that I was there and I talked about it, it takes the businesses to kind of put in for that funding, but I think it's really needed in certain other areas, and it's very good, just having people out on bikes. Also, I like the new mayor of City of Cleveland, his new initiative with having more cops out on the street, and just bringing community back and making people feel safe. So the more and more that we have programs like this, or can assist individuals that like to walk in communities and walk their dogs, and them feeling safe is a good thing. So welcome aboard, and I hope you get it.
Oh, no, thank you. And thank you for that sentiment. I'll make sure that we pass along our contact information so that we can connect. But we understand at the Alliance that a large part of business development, residential development, is that safety, clean and safe component. Businesses want to come where they feel like they can do business in a safe environment and a clean environment. So that's the Clean and Safe program is our flag staff program over at the Alliance. It's funded through our Special Improvement District, which is made up of property owners. And so we hear those kind of sentiments all the time. And, once again, I'm just grateful that you acknowledge that.
That's great. Yes, Councilman Miller.
I'd like to thank you for your compassion and commitment to helping other people in a variety of ways. And my question is about the Open Doors Academy, and if you could say a little bit about how well that program worked and what kind of results you were able to get.
Well, right after college, I thought that it was important for me to do my part to uplift youth and to serve as an example, just being in close proximity in terms of age to, children, help to motivate them. I think that it was a great program, especially because it helped parents, manage their children from that 3 to 5 hour, where I think, many children tend to get into some trouble. So I think it helped tremendously on a bunch of different levels. I think it helped me tremendously in terms of creating, managing, executing programming, which I think will be extremely critical for this position on the committee, because I know beyond the scope of grant making, it includes, forums and programs that should be executed. And so I think I'm also an artist. Photography is my discipline. And so I have that creativity and experience to create dynamic programs that I think can have impact on people.
Thank you.
Thank you. You do have, yes, Councilman.
I just want to share, yesterday in committee, it hasn't passed through council yet, but funding will be given to the arts. So I think Assembly of the Arts is going to work with individuals. So reach out for your discipline, and maybe you'll be, you can do something with the community or whatever. So Assembly of the Arts and Cuyahoga Arts Culture. It hasn't passed council yet, but it's almost there.
Well, I hope so, because I've said many times I think that art informs culture, but there's also a major healing component to art that's necessary and needed in challenge communities and demographics. So thank you for your support in that way.
Great, thank you. You know, the only question I guess I have, because you have such a varied background and so dedicated in helping others and having a great understanding, what drew you to this board? What is it that, there's a lot of boards out there. What is it that the AIDS Funding Collaborative Advisory Committee, what drew you to this in particular that you would be asking to be considered?
Well, I was actually referred by a friend. And just doing my research on the committee, I became really interested in, you know, my varied background is by design. I like to have a lot of different experiences. And I just saw this as a tremendous opportunity for myself to have an even deeper and greater impact in a way that I haven't before. Like I said, I've worked with youth experiencing mental illness, and this is just another aspect of expanding my scope to impact challenged populations.
All right, good answer, and I think that's exactly what you're going to do. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I will make a motion to move this item to the full body of council for second reading under suspension of the rules. May I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no nays. Congratulations, and I know you'll do good work.
Thank you.
Well, that was our last on the agenda. Stumbled a few times, but I think we got through there pretty well.
And almost to the button, 2
Almost to
hours.
I've been watching that clock, too. Is there any miscellaneous business?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I have one quick item of miscellaneous business. Today we handled some very important appointments to significant boards and commissions. My question, Madam Chair, to Ms. Roach is kind of where we're at on appointments. Are we pretty well caught up on major appointments to boards and commissions, or are there a significant number of vacancies out there that we still need to fill?
Councilman Miller, from my knowledge, there's not a significant number. I know there's a lot of boards and a lot of, I know we have another case appointment because someone stepped down. I believe we have an RTA coming up of the bigger ones, but I will definitely take a look and speak with Janae and get you, would you like a list of what vacancies and what boards?
Would give
That'd be
that,
great.
yeah, to all of us. We'd be
Okay.
interested in knowing.
Okay, we can work on that in the next couple of days when Janae gets back, and I'll take a look and let you know. It would be definitely something good to have.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for the
you.
question, Councilman. That's a good question. Any other business?
Yeah, Madam Chair, to Lori, I think there was one person that said there's going to be an opening on the Citizens Advisory, another one, a future appointment. Do you know who is that that's leaving?
You know what? I do not, but I will double check with Clerk Bird and get back to you. Because she
Okay.
did tell me there's a vacancy. So I will double check today and I can get that answer for you.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Chair. Good question, Dale. Very good question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, if there's no other business, we are adjourned.